Hello. I had a very layered dream. I woke up maybe like 5 or 6 a.m. For a little bit, and then I laid back down. And I'm pretty sure I had this experience during that more like hypnagogic state. And then I do feel like I went deeper into sleep. And I'm outside, so you may hear a little bit of water and wind. Yeah, so this dream experience I felt personal as well as collective. And I've noticed like the last few days, I'm recording this like a bit after we had a full moon in Libra, and I'm pretty sure there's like some sort of alignment or conjunction with the moon and galactic center. Another reader on YouTube was talking about that. I did not fact check her. I feel like she's pretty on top of that type of thing. So anyway, it stood out to me when I heard it. Excuse me. Yeah, so this like previous week of so much burping all of a sudden. I feel like I just needed a really good cry, and it came out at a really weird time. And I was connecting with a subscriber here and someone who's been supporting me as a client for a couple years off and on. And during a transmission, a personal one for her, I was feeling this specific energy, and then she messaged me like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this goddess archetype?" That's what was coming through. Celacia, I believe, the goddess of salt water. So some of you may feel connected to that. As I say that, a boat just started to approach. I haven't seen a boat go by in a little while on the river. It's a little loud. Anyway, so, and I have to say, one of the dogs that I'm sitting with, he has been sitting and watching this lizard for, I don't know, at least 10 minutes, just so still. So there can be this, like stillness, or even like some of you may be feeling like some stagnation, like your life is kind of like on hold, in some way. If you feel called to, connect in with salt water in some way, that may be helpful if you're not doing that already. As soon as I said that, the dog finally just like laid down, like he was sitting in the same position, and just moved positions when I said that, so that feels connected. There may be some like pushback, or like mini, like I'm seeing 5 of Wands in tarot, like mini altercations, especially if you're someone who doesn't usually have those experiences, or maybe they're happening in a different way. Like I've noticed this week there's been like just this like surges and waves of like collective anger. I was actually talking about with a friend, and maybe like altercations, feeling like you need to stand up for yourself in ways but you're not being heard, or like the energy isn't reciprocal, like you're speaking how you feel like you need to for yourself, and the other party or person or people are just not listening or respecting it. I don't know, there's something like this going on. As well as I had someone say to me like yesterday or the day before, like basically getting frustrated with me that I look at the mystical side of things too much. And I didn't even feel like during this conversation I was bringing up anything mystical, so I wasn't, So there could be something like where, I'm trying to get the right words to say this. I'm hearing the word projections. I don't love to label that, but yeah, you maybe just like, I feel like there's so much change in the air, and people, you know, when change can happen, a lot of people get freaked out by that. And I feel like there's just like pushback of things just kind of like being thrown in your direction. So if you are feeling that, yeah, just maybe like coming back to breath if you haven't already. Like I said, salt water. I feel like for me, it's been really about, like coming back to simplicity and like just coming back to my inner knowing. And I've been like a bit more reflective and like asking questions like, can I show up differently? How can I show up if this is happening, you know? So if you feel called to do that, or again, maybe you're doing that already, but it really does feel like after some reflecting, like there's a collective tide movement of change. And like, I think whether it's subconscious or conscious, people are feeling that, and just sort of like, maybe I'm hearing like realizing their gaps. Like maybe people here like seeing something in you that they actually like want to experience, but there maybe is some fear or pushback within themselves, so they see it in you and then like just sort of lash out. Like I really don't like to like blame other people or say like, you know, I always say like go within, assess, reflect, you know, but that's just the energy I'm feeling, so I'm just going to share it. Yeah, so this dream was quite lucid, and a bluebird just flew by me as I said that. And I haven't seen a lot of bluebirds in this area where I am the past few days. I'm not sure what type of bird, but I know it was blue. And I actually felt my grandfather, who I didn't know very well, coming through the other day. And then I was like, I don't know. And then like since then, he said, look out for bluebirds. And a bluebird just flew by. And I went to this apartment that I've been in multiple times in the last week. And the owners are not there, so there's no way that they could have put something up. Like my friend is staying there. And a different spelling, but his last name was like on the wall. And it's not like a very common last name. And there were a few other little synchronicities since then. So yeah, there could be multiple messages here. Like maybe there's someone, a grandfather or a father type spirit coming through for you, and or maybe you are someone who is stepping into your like mediumship abilities, and you were asking for some sort of like signs, synchronicities, confirmations to like continue stepping into that. So, and or both. Maybe experiencing both. I know when that started happening with me, actually my dad, who passed in 2017, started coming to me in the most like insane ways, and it was breaking open my mediumship abilities. And of course I do believe that like all humans have their own unique way of connecting, but that all humans have this in some form or another. Whether or not everyone accesses that in this lifetime is totally up to them and their soul's blueprint, but I do believe that the human in general. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know why I'm talking about this. I was not expecting to talk about this at all. But yeah, so in like 2017, not long after, I would say like within the year, I just started having these like very, like for me, they were like undeniable experiences, but I was still very like skeptical and wasn't trusting it very much. Yeah, if anyone's interested in some specific stories, let me know, or maybe I'll talk about that on Patreon. But yeah, that's just for anyone who may be experiencing that right now. Okay, back to the lucid experience. So I'm in this, it sort of almost felt like a motel of some sort. It just felt like run down, but there was an outdoor, there was a pool, And I was looking around, like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? And I was, like, asking myself questions, I think, to encourage the lucidity of the dream. And so I was, like, asking myself questions, and then these 4 kids, like, just kind of appeared. And they were all different, like, nationalities. And something looked off about them. Like, I'm almost like, you know, Cabbage Patch dolls? It's almost like they were Cabbage Patch dolls, but, like, kid size. But they had that, like, I don't know, there's something about them that just did not, something just didn't feel right. And I was looking at them and I was like, oh, hello, like, what are you guys doing here? And they were all, like, giggling and just kind of acting weird. I mean, kids giggle, that's not weird. But, yeah, there was something just, like, not. And I really, like, gave them a good look, and they were all, they kind of got, like, a little bit weird. Like, why is she looking at us like this? And then I think there was a pool, and I was like, you know what? Something is going on here, so I'm just going to go swim. So I, like, went into the water, and I could feel the water as if, like, I was there. And I've had a few people lately come to me, well, not come to me, but talk to me and say that their dreams have been more and more like they can feel so much deeper, as if, like, they're experiencing it, whatever they're dreaming about, and that they've experienced it before, but it's been a while and now it's coming back. So some of you may be experiencing that too, which I've experienced also off and on for as long as I can remember. And if you're familiar with Dan Winters, his work is a lot around sort of like understanding the auric field. And if you've heard of him, you would probably have heard him tell this story about, like, when our auric field becomes centripetally imploded, then from what he studied, like, for example, he had someone who was so tuned into lucid dreaming that they would, like, experience what they were doing so much in this altered state that they would wake up. Like, for example, if they were at the beach, they would have sand on them when they woke up, things like this. And I've actually remember my mom read a book years ago. I was like a teenager, and I was so skeptical, like, most of my life. Like, my mom was always open to a lot of the stuff, and even though I had my own experiences, I, like, really did shut down for a while. And she would tell me this stuff, but I was always still interested. Like, I would listen to her, and then I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I would just get, like, so, and then I would have my own experiences and, you know, be like kind of like gaslight myself. Anyway, and then I remember, like, in my 20s, I started to, like, read about string theory. And my boyfriend at the time, I remember one time I was, like, reading an article on my phone, and he was like, because that was, like, not my, like, if you knew me then, you'd be like, this girl doesn't know what string theory is. Like, I had zero, like, and he looked over and he was like, are you reading about, what are you reading? Like, he was, like, so uncomfortable with it. Like, this is so weird. Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I think I, like, got embarrassed. I don't know. It was, like, a whole thing. This is, like, over 10 years ago. So I don't know why I'm being called to share all of these experiences, but okay. Anyway, so the idea of our auric field being able to lucid dream, according to Dan Winter and other people that I've heard say this, is like it's passed down through the bloodline. And now that I've gotten into understanding some more of, like, chelantic science and the DNA, it's like these different being shown, like, fire codes, like how you can, like, turn off and on different sequences, and there's something about the ability of lucid dreaming and then different abilities that kind of integrate with that apparently are very sought after within the human original genome, like the genetics of the angelic crystalline blueprint. Anyway, so yeah, that seems to be coming through. So some of you, again, maybe tuning back into that, or maybe you're very already experienced in it, but yeah, it's just coming up. So I'm feeling the water in the stream, and I was, like, continuing as the dream went on to become more and more lucid within it. And then I heard, like, the 4 kids, I'm using air quotes, you can't see me, kids, like, whispering, like, what is she doing? Is she swimming? Like, and I was like, why are they so like interested in what I'm doing? And then I looked over and I like almost could see that like they were not kids, like they were disguised in a different, they like shape-shifted themselves. And I was like, I know that you guys are not like who you are pretending to be. And they were kind of like, but it didn't feel sinister or anything. They felt like I knew them, and they were like trying to disguise and like, you know, like kind of guide me through something without knowing. It's kind of what the energy I felt. And there's a movie that it's a fairy tale, and I can't remember the name of the movie. I'll have to look it up. But there's like these 4 fairy godmothers. Is it Sleeping Beauty? I don't know. I have to look. But that's what they reminded me of. These like 4 fairy godmothers, like trying to act like, you know, shapeshift themselves into different things. And they were just kind of like, and then I heard them like, oh, damn, she caught us. Like, and I was like cracking up. Anyway, so then I felt like they were with me the whole time, but I didn't see them after that, like visually. And then I started exploring and going into different areas. And it's said in the metaphysical realm that like apartments or houses can represent the subconscious mind. So I was going into these different places. I haven't looked up in a while like what each room or area, a water pool means. So I'm not feeling guided to, but if someone here wants to and then like comment that and share it, that would be really cool. Because it might give you some deeper insight into like the specificity of each room or place that I mentioned. There may be like a deeper dive there. Okay, so then as I'm going through each area, I was like meeting different people along the way. Some of them felt like the guy maybe was like, okay, maybe I don't want to talk to them anymore. And I just kept going. And somehow I got to this hallway eventually. It felt like it was a while. Like I was really like going through these different places. I feel like I met someone in a car. Like there was just all these different spots. And then I finally, got to this like corridor with steps. And I don't know if I was going up or down the steps, which is interesting. Because, you know, ascension, descension. I just remember being on a platform. Like, you know, when you walk up steps and there's a landing. I was on a landing. And I remember the corridor being quite like, it's funny I'm using the word corridor because I usually picture them straight. It's like I was going straight and then all of a sudden I came to this like landing. And then there were steps and then I went to another landing kind of thing. So then I'm on this landing and I just stopped dead in my tracks and I was like, I can create a portal, can I? Like I'm taking these steps and I'm going up and down. Like I'm done with that. Like I know I can create a portal. And I was asking like myself and I was like, is there anyone around? Like I remember meeting those 4 kids disguised as different beings. And I was like, is anyone here? Like, can I create a portal? I can do that, right? Like, I don't need to ask. What am I asking for? Like, I'm just going to do it. So I was like, I know what to do. So I closed my eyes within the dream and I like felt, like waves of color spectrum kind of moving through. And I just closed my eyes and I was like, I know exactly what to do. And I was like, I'm going to create a portal. And I was like, oh, where am I going to go? And then I was like, okay, hold on. And I was like creating the portal. And then I was like, I know where I want to go. I want to meet someone. And if they're going to meet me there, like I said, it's up to the highest good. And I said their name and I do know them in this reality. And I was like, if it's for the highest good, come meet me here. And I didn't exactly say where here was. I just like felt what I wanted to feel, if that makes sense. And then a portal like transported me. And so I've had dreams of portals before, but I didn't see this portal because I was in like the waves of energy and I closed my eyes. It was like I asked to bring back on teleportation. So I was like, I'm going to create the portal and then I'm going to teleport. And that's what I did. And I teleported to this other place. And when I opened my eyes, I was in this like, sometimes I feel so silly sharing these things, but this is what happened. It was, speaking of mystical, it was a very like, it almost felt like what a bedroom would feel like if it was less dense than where we are here. So it was still physical, but it wasn't as solid. Things were a little bit lighter. there was this like very airy, like effervescence to the air, and there was like a very like golden, pinkish, glittery, which is funny because this energy has been coming through transmissions like the last few weeks. It's almost like if you, I guess people have, what are they called? Like filters on Instagram. I don't have them, but I've seen other people use them. And you can click something and it's almost like the air is like glittery. It was like that. And the room was just very, like pinkish, goldish. And I do feel like there was a bed there. But again, it was like almost like cloud, like a cloud bed. Like it was very light. And when I got there, I was like, yes, like this is where... Like I went through all of those other experiences and like this feels good. Like I was so happy. And then I turned to see the person and they were there, but then that's all I remember. I don't remember the rest. So I feel like there was definitely more, but it's like that was where my memory stopped like transmitting this memory recall. So I wanted to share this because it does feel like there's been a deep subconscious cleanup. And whenever you're finding this, it can vary for everyone. I always say this, like whether you're first starting or wherever you are in the process, like I share these things so that whenever you find it, it's not so much about like, is all of this happening for me right now? Or like, what do you want to experience? Is this something that you're working on? So, because I never want to like make anyone feel like, oh, I'm not there yet. Like, that's okay. Like, this has taken quite some time for me to be able to even have the courage to share this and go through all the experiences. So, like after hearing a few people this week, like say certain things to me, I still, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit like, maybe I am a little bit too much in the mystical, or maybe I do, I still, but it's so much less now. Like, if this would have happened like a year ago, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm deleting my YouTube. I'm not sharing this, so progress. And sometimes that's going to happen. So, or at least like most likely. Anyway, so collectively, it does feel like there's this one like deeper recall of memory coming online, whether it's through dreams, synchronicity, channeling, hypnosis, meditation, just a knowing, seeing, feeling, hearing, there's so many ways. And this idea of the moon being in alignment with galactic center, the subconscious, the hidden, coming to light with like the galactic consciousness. So it does feel like there's this like for those who are ready and some, again, that fear, the moon can also represent like some of those like hidden fears coming to light. So, and I know a few people that I've been talking to also have been having nightmares lately, so there could be nightmares that are happening to help like purge out some of this deep hidden subconscious, sometimes not so subconscious, dualistic experiences. What else? I just heard like lunar codes. So some of you can be feeling called to gaze at the moon. Maybe you're seeing light language or feeling light language when you look at the moon. There's something about connecting with the lunar energy. And if you can't see the moon from where you are for some reason, just setting the intention and connecting with can also, if you are already doing that, of course, always just take that as confirmation. Come on. I'm talking to the dog. 24 minutes. Wow. I thought I was at like 11 minutes. Let's see. I have like things written down that I may check. One moment. Okay, so there was a few synchronistic things yesterday with black crows. I know ravens and crows can often go together, but this is more specifically crows. but ravens could be relevant as well. I also kept thinking, I've said the phrase Black Crowes so many times, and I just for some reason was also thinking of the band, the Black Crowes, so that could be, I just heard Virginia, and there could be something about Virginia. Yeah, so another aspect that's coming through is like, I was talking about the mystical earlier, and like balancing the mundane with the mystical, or a lot of people use the terminology 3D and 5D. I don't love that for this experience because I feel like there's a lot of distortion in that. But the everyday world that we see and experience, the logic, etc., and then of course the more etheric aspects, so this feels like a rebalancing of that. And a few people this week actually also brought up that is something that they've been experiencing lately, is like how to essentially like flow, get into a flow while being in more like 3D structures, or what people call 3D structures, or the more, some people call it also like the rat race. There's so many names. And I've noticed like quite a few people like be scared like for me, because I'm making different life choices than maybe they would make, and over the years. And I realize like some of the people who have said these things to me, like, for example, like, oh, you're just always too mystical, or things like this, or I'm trying to help you. And I appreciate that. But like for those of us who feel like there's like a new recipe that we want to try out to life and not just do things the way they were done, it can look pretty scary. And I get that. And I try really hard not to take it personally and not to get offended, but instead just know that in their way, even if it's coming through maybe more fear, that like it's because they care. I don't know why this is coming through, but so some of you maybe also rest has been coming up, like I had this experience recently where I was like the busiest I've been in a while. Like I used to be a very busy person when I had my previous career. And then the last 2 years I've really worked on like my nervous system and prioritizing like my own pace and not needing to like rush all the time and things like this. But then I was in the last month or so, like on someone else's schedule. I was like assisting or helping out with my sister and her kids and my brother-in-law. So I was more like on their schedule. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, I was so grateful to be there. I love all of them so much. Like, it was a very fun experience. But like, every time I go, I get sick because there's some sort of like, I purge out something because I'm like, anyway. So people, you could be noticing that you've been releasing cellularly, like maybe you've gotten some colds or some stomach stuff. Like there could just be some things coming up. And like I said, for the first time in a while, I was like really tired, like during the day, like just not that I haven't been tired during the day, but I mean, just like loopy, like just we're go, 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 go. And like I said, I haven't been doing that in a while. And I got to see like, wow, emotions like really can be so much more difficult to keep in alignment when you are like exhausted and not rested, or on like a completely different pace than what you're used to, and that might seem like extremely obvious, but to actually experience like that's how I used to live my life all the time, and then taking this very few years to like undo that and then experience it again briefly, like I just really got to see like and feel and experience. So there could be something like this where maybe you are having a hard time like experiencing your everyday life because maybe you're trying to balance rest. I know quite a few people have been talking about also like the sun and the moon and working with like the lunar and solar cycles and cycles of time, the circadian rhythm, like all these things are coming up. I sort of feel like this, the deeper aspects of this will come out most likely in Patreon. But if someone is interested in more of this, please like feel free to share and I can go deeper with that. And I also just want to add, there are absolutely times where maybe I was a little bit, you know, like those of us who, like, I feel like if you're still here, you're probably on some sort of like, or have been through one, two, or many, like hermit phases where you just sort of like, or what people call like dark nights, where you just like maybe disconnect and things can feel very out of balance. You know, there's something about like coming back to the self that can feel extremely chaotic and imbalanced. So yeah, I'm making myself an espresso. I'm really excited. I also feel like I'm going to probably need to take a break from caffeine again soon, but not today. Maybe some of you are thinking about that or trying that, or like are very sensitive to caffeine. Or maybe that's something you go through phases with as well. So you may hear the machine in the background. Okay. Yeah, so I'm seeing like the metal element in Chinese medicine. And whenever I think of that, I always think of like a flexible structure. So it's like coming up with a structure that works for you. From like a more flexible way that like matches your inner rhythms while also like taking into account what's happening around you, if that makes sense. Okay, so I just recorded, I don't know, maybe a half an hour or something of audio, and it somehow, I don't know if I like recorded over it, it disappeared. And I know that I'm saying this, like for you, it will just flow from what I was just talking about, the metal structure in TCM. But yeah, and I honestly was really excited about what came through. But I'm just going to trust the process. And I will allow, I'm going to like re-tap back into the energetics. And I remember the general basis of what I was speaking about. So I'm feeling guided to save most of it for the overflow, but I will do my best to sort of just re-tap back in and see what wants to come through. And interestingly enough, I just wanted to make sure I was recording, so I stopped the recording and it stopped at 108, and I've been seeing that number so much. And I know there's a significance to 108 in certain traditions, like counting mandalas, etc. I hope I said that correctly. Counting, yeah, like using that number as a mantra, repetitive count. It's a bit loud where I am, so I'm going to postpone recording, but you won't be able to tell. It will just flow together. Yeah. Okay, so it's 10:10, and I started this recording yesterday, and there's just been like interruptions, and I don't know if interruptions is the right word. And then I just really needed to rest last night, and it's been a busy morning, so I finally got a few moments, and I looked at the clock, and it was 10:10, and I was like, okay, perfect. But again, this will all just flow together because I don't really edit at all. Yeah, so anyway, I probably for the first time ever went back and listened from the very beginning of the audio, because like I said, I would say a good 40 minutes got deleted somehow. And I had no idea what was where or what got deleted. So yeah, I listened to the whole thing, and I just saw a dandelion. I call them wishies. A dandelion fly by the window as I said that. And earlier this morning, a black and white feather flew down. It was floating down from the sky, and I walked towards it, and it landed in my hand, which I recorded a transmission maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember what the name of that was. And a black and white feather, same thing, floated in front of me. And they're about the same size. So, very interesting. And also, when I opened the door, the dog that I'm watching tried to run out, which, I bent down and I got him, to pick him up, and caught him before he could get outside fully. And there was this, I hadn't seen an ant this big. I haven't seen any ants here, honestly. It's so, but this is a very big ant. And I heard in my head, immediately, bigger collaborations. I always think of collaborations with ants. Yeah, so there can be some collaborative energy coming in, Three of Pentacles and tarot energy. I'm also seeing the 11th house in astrology. Also, gene keys and human design are coming up, particularly for some reason, gate 17 and gate 12. And when I look them up, it's funny, 17 seems to be more about logic. And gate 12 is the expressing artistry, poetic word, etc. So I'm remembering in the beginning of this transmission, it was talking about balancing of, what people are calling the 3D and 5D, or just the idea of logic and creativity, etc. So very interesting that those two came in my mind because I haven't been called to fully study human design or gene keys, but I know somewhat of the framework of each of them, and I'll just hear specific gates or keys in my mind as time goes on, a different present moment to look up, and it's generally what it is that whatever the energy is that I feel beforehand. So yeah, if you're not familiar, you can just put in a search for them, and there will be different descriptions, and maybe there's some deeper messages for you. Okay, I wanted to re-tap back in, like I said before. So I was talking about working with for example, mediumship was coming up, but the idea of receiving a validation or confirmations, and how I was using the example of my grandfather that I believe he transitioned off the earth plane or this plane of existence that we live in at the moment, within the last few years. And like I said, I've only met him a few times, but some of the energetics behind it, when I was tuning in deeper, I would say a few weeks ago, no, within the last week, I kept finding so many feathers. And when I would find the feathers, I kept hearing avian Seraphim lineage, which I had tapped into before. And from Keylontic science perspective, it's the father arc. Anyway, so I can't remember, honestly, if this dream that I had the day before or 2 days before I recorded the dream about creating the portal. It's I had this dream right before that where, and if I already told it, I don't think it made the audio. I did say it, but it didn't get recorded, where I had a dream of my last, official relationship romantically, that person, which was in like 2016 or 2016. And in the dream, he was sleeping in bed. And some of the metaphysical dream interpretations or symbology can represent like comfort, rest. And it's interesting because we were talking a lot about like finding your place with rest and how to balance that. And so in the dream, he was like sleeping in bed and then wanted me to come in bed with him. And it's funny because in the dream I was like, you know what? No. Like, and I was saying how that relationship for me was like a catalyst. I didn't know it at the time. And of course I'm grateful for it. But yeah, it was very, definitely a huge catalyst moment for me, and life changed a lot after that. And yeah, so whether or not, I want to say it's more like this person represents that like symbolic catalyst moment. So some of you can be reflecting on that, or some of you may be going through a catalyst moment, or you just to go through it, or you're about to. And I kept being shown like synastry in astrology. So some of you may be called to that, and or the vertex and anti-vertex. Yeah, so this is what was coming through yesterday, like fate, destiny gates, gateways. They say the temples represent gateways, like in our on our head, the temples of our head. So some of you can be feeling like temple sensations, tightness, tingling. I just felt a tingle in my right ear. You can be having a lot of like clairaudience, clear hearing sensations, activations, purges, etc. And so in this dream, the more that I said no to him, like, I am not going to come into bed. Like, no, I am, like, basically in the dream, I was like, I'm done with this. And the more I did that, the more he like was like, no, you have to come. Like, oh my God, I love it when you say no. It was so weird. So anyway, I'm sharing this because that, the deep healing with like the masculine energy, and then like the catalyst energy. And then of course, like a day or two later, I had this other dream experience where I started in that, like the depths of the subconscious that seemed like it needed a revamp. And then by the end of the dream experience, I was in that, very like effervescent golden pink type of energy where I created a portal. So anyway, all of that to say, it was like a full circle moment of this restoration of the what we can call some of like the masculine energetics. So some of the things that I was called to talk about, like usual, I'll put in like a Google search of what I hear in my mind, or what I hear clairaudiently. And I came across Gold Ray Seraphim template in the Ascension Glossary, and I will be reading more of this on Patreon. But I just want to read the first paragraph. During the 7th cycle of the Reclamation of Christos mission, this level of the Guardian Host rehabilitation mission for the Gold Ray Seraphim template has met with victory. To ensure masculine rod healing for the distorted Seraphim 10-strand DNA template, a pure gold ray 12-strand core manifestation template for the Seraphim lineages has been generated as the Diamond Sun embodiment potential for the entirety of Christ-Michael avian lineages. Now, when I clicked on this, there's a visual, like there usually is, and it says Gold Order Shield, and it's all gold and pink energy, which is exactly what my dream was showing. So yeah, there's just a lot of dots connecting. And this talks about the Seraphim and the avian lineages, which is exactly what I was hearing. And the Michael lineages. Now, I was saying before how, like, there's a lot of different, I guess, ideologies that talk about, you know, there's the gates in astrology, and I wanted to see something. A lot of astrology is coming up. Also, the Grand Cross in astrology can be relevant for someone. I was seeing that. Yeah, of course. And there's like the Archangel Michael archetype that comes through, and the Michael family in Keylontic science. You know, there's just different perspectives. But anyway, that has been coming through very strongly lately. The blue ray, even though this is talking about the gold ray. Yeah, so I kept being shown when we were talking about this in the beginning, like the DNA in connection to lucid dreaming, and then, you know, the essentially like fire codes or fire letter sequences that can be like activated, deactivated, and in connection with some of these restoration of certain bloodlines and DNA strands. Okay, so like I said, I will be going deeper with this in Patreon, but I just wanted to show that like full cycle of the, what is called here is like masculine rod healing. And I was also reconnecting it back, and I think I've mentioned this before on the channel. When I was a kid, I would have these repetitive dreams, and I started doing research, you know, maybe around 2017, 2018, and I got instantly reconnected with the Nephilim, and how my dreams were very much showing me basically what we're talking about now. And this gold ray Seraphim template restoration also feels connected to this. Yeah, so some of this can be coming up for some of you, or maybe it will be in the future. Only take that if it, you know, feels good to you. Please don't try to make that, because then it goes on to talk about like the fallen angelics and the fallen seraphim, which, like I said, I will be getting into more. Okay, so, and it's interesting, this talks about the 10th strand DNA, and I was talking about 1010, and when I started this portion of the recording, and of course 10 in Wheel of Fortune, tarot is all about destiny and the fates turning the wheel, you know, so there's definitely, like, we're talking about ending cycles, like very synchronistic. There was also a portion of the personal transmission that I was speaking on with a client / friend that I brought up in the beginning of this, and she, so right before I did that for her, like earlier in the day, I had written down Maya Nartumid crystals. I just heard that in my head, so I wrote it down to look it up later. And I didn't mention that at all to her. And then when she responded to the transmission or one of the emails I sent, she said, oh, and the Andaras, which Maya Nartumid talks about in depth, the Andara connection. So then, of course, I went deeper to look into that. And like I said, I will be going more in depth on this. But I just wanted to read a little bit of what I found. So Maya Nartumid released something called the White Crystal Star, Guiding the Purpose and Plan for Earth. It says, reviewing Thoth messages for 2020 and 2021 and how they lead us forward into the century, additional perspective from 2024. Most specifically is the revelation of the White Crystal Star as both a generating Christic Alpha and Omega star guiding planet Earth and a hidden Mayan glyph of celestial prophecy. And this stood out to me because the Christic Alpha and Omega, again, that balance of masculine, feminine, lunar, solar, like there's just so much of that coming forward. And White Crystal Star, that I feel like will reveal itself more over time. And then I found something else that she wrote about Andara crystals. and the title is Tahuti or Thoth in parentheses on the Andara crystal's crystal glass. And I did read this in part of this article in the first audio that got deleted. Let me see. I was drawn to a very specific place. So she basically talks about how the Andara crystals, Tahuti, Thoth speaks of here, are actually in another dimension of reality. The properties of these crystals, however, are present in some man-made glass that has been found on the current sacred land sites. There's a lot of discrepancies if you're not familiar with Andaras, and a lot of a lot of deception. Like, people will find them and try to sell them for a bunch of money. So, please use your discernment when you're working with this stuff. But I do like to continue going deeper with these things, because it's like, just because there's what I'm trying to say is what I'm learning each time I go deeper with things is like, when there's deception, that doesn't always automatically discount, of course, that there's some truth to something. So it's about really utilizing that discernment, Anyway, so I'm going to skip down a little bit, and what I'm really drawn to. So if you're not familiar with Maya Nartumid's work, she kind of often will do almost like a transcription, where it's her question and then the response that she receives from the energy that she works with, which comes through as Tahuti or Thoth. Okay, so this is the response. Andara is the name we have chosen to identify the prima matra crystals. These crystals are composed primarily of prima matra, heated to very high temperatures. We have related to you in past transmissions that the, quote, first matter, powders coming from Nellie's land, which I'm not sure what Nellie's land is, and I will have to go deeper with that, were created by an interdimensional implosion. The land was originally seeded for prima matra by those we call the, quote, time walkers, in conjunction with high devas mythologically depicted as unicorns. When the implosion occurred, which, by the way, there's unicorns, I keep seeing them everywhere, the seed material was heated not only to very high levels, but in a contained hyperfield. Oh, by the way, when I say them, I mean depictions of unicorn, which is created by two or more dimensions touching. A hyperfield forms a, quote, no time zone where linear laws of thermodynamics are warped or in some cases do not apply at all. It was within such a hyperfield that the prima matra powders and the Andara crystals were created. Now, it's so interesting, I kept being taken to the white gold powder that I work with from, currently from Blue Emerald Alchemy, but the idea of ORMUS or monatomic state gold, single atom, is essentially supposed to be the purest form. And of course, just like anything, there's some people claim that they make the purest form. It's, from what I've researched, it's hard to really say if something is actually in its ORMUS form, actually to be considered ORMUS. But really the idea of purification and working in the purest forms of these substances, I'm hearing as within, as without, that hermetic principle, as above, so below. So continuing to refine and work with these things in balance and in cycles, and also not overusing them is also something that's coming through. And even though it doesn't mention that here, when they say prima matra powders, I just keep being taken to this idea of the ORMUS gold, monatomic state gold. Okay. Approximately 2,000 years after the interdimensional implosion, a Lemurian temple complex was raised, on this site, the name of which was Andara, meaning light of beauty and perfection. The primary purpose of this complex was in working with the prima matra powders, crystals, and water on the land. And now water continues to come through. And it's really interesting because I mentioned the goddess of salt waters, Hellllo, and how synchronistically that goddess archetype came through. And another connection to that, I was swimming in the pool. As I said, there's a flock of birds just flew by so quickly. Oh, and also when I was recording yesterday, I completely forgot. I was talking about how my grandfather said to look out for redbirds, bluebirds, and feathers. And then, of course, today I found the feather. Well, it kind of found me. And then as I was recording yesterday, the part that got deleted, a bluebird flew by and then a redbird came. And also for me, that's very synchronistic of like what we call like divine masculine and feminine, the blue being the feminine and the red being the masculine. So just so many connections here. And anyway, so I was swimming the other day after bringing through that transmission about the salt water, and I was saying how I kept seeing this like ritual of some sort or offering of like utilizing a release of tears, like the salt in the tears, into another vessel or body of water. So I don't know if some of you have done that before or that's something you've thought about. I don't know, but that was coming through like, yeah, almost using tears as like an offering and a form of release. And like that transmutation process or the idea of like another drop in the ocean. It's like something about that connection. And I haven't connected with this energy in a while. Like this has not happened. And as I was swimming at the end, I kept feeling this like very golden, like nymph-like figure. And I was getting a visual, like it's hard to explain. I was more like feeling a visual, but like where the water, so swimming in this pool and it's connected to a hot tub that's like a little bit elevated. And there's a space where if it's turned on, the water would be, flowing from the hot tub, like a little fountain, or like a little waterfall. And I really wanted to turn it on, but I couldn't find the switch. I looked, and funny enough, like a day or two later, someone came to clean the yard and then they turned it on. So I got to see it flowing. But anyway, actually in the beginning of this transmission, I was next to that and you could hear the water flowing. So anyway, I kept feeling this like nymph-like energy and I was kind of like, okay, I'm making this up. Like this is whatever. But it just kept popping in when I was in that pool. And then when I received the information about Celacia, the saltwater goddess, after bringing through that energy in the transmission, I went to look up more information about Celacia. And apparently she comes as a like nymph-like figure with like a golden energy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's extremely synchronistic. So some of you may have been feeling that, or maybe you will. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, one of the temples in this complex was dedicated to the ancient archetype known to the Egyptians as Sekhmet and to the Assyrians as Ishtar. Now, another connection, after I sent that transmission to the person who requested it, a personal transmission, she mentioned something about self-confidence. And as soon as she said that, I kept hearing Sekhmet, 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 like over and over again. So I was like already finished and I wasn't going to email her any more things. But then I was like, oh, okay, I have to do one more thing. So then I started to talk about Sekhmet. And now here's Sekhmet. And I found this yesterday. So it was like literally a day later. Just all of this coming in together, which is so interesting. Ishtar, Sekhmet, and of course I've been waking up and seeing that the Venus star, like the first star you see before sunset or at sunset and then sundown. Well, at sunset I've been seeing it and it's just, I don't know if it's just like I can see it more clearly or I don't know what it is, but it's just been so big. And I always think of that energy with Ishtar and the Venus morning rising star. Lots of Venusian energy. And so there was another layer to this. Sekhmet. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading. Information on the Sekhmet temples appears in issue 296 of Temple Doors. While Andara was originally a Lemurian colony, those who participated in the Andara complex became their own race. By this we mean that through their purposeful interaction with the Prima Matra, they transmuted their crystalline DNA, becoming a highly futurized form of human being, even more developed in their light matrix than the Lemurians of that age. Thus, at this point in our disclosure, we will cease calling these colonist Lemurians and refer to them as Andarians. And then she says, again, please note, Here, that Tahuti is speaking of the original crystals that formed about 115,000 years ago that are no longer in the dimension of reality except through the energetic connection to the man-made Andara crystal glass now found on Nellie's land, having been buried there in more recent times. There's much more to this that I probably will continue reading on in the overflow. Side note, what was it, yesterday? I literally saw, so I'm staying in a very like a little like cul-de-sac kind of area. So it's like the house I'm staying in, and there's like a couple more houses surrounding it. So within those few houses, I saw four yesterday, specifically black Lexus SUVs. Yeah, 4 Lexus black SUVs. I'm not great with like car make and model, so they could have each been a different type, but like, so I don't know if someone here, that could be a sign for someone. Maybe someone wants to call in a similar type of vehicle, or maybe you drive that kind of vehicle, but I just had to make note of that because it kept like 4 of them in such a small space. Just felt, I don't know if like everyone here was like, hey, we should all get this car. Like, I don't know, but I just had to share that. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so essentially something came through yesterday when I was making notes, and I heard sacred solar return, which is such a beautiful phrase to me, and I love alliteration, sacred solar. But yeah, it feels like there's, and I kept seeing sandalphon, and I found more white feathers, and all at the same time, there was like a horn beeping while this was happening. So there's some sort of alignment that I kept feeling, and I also saw 1111 1111, like so many gateways coming into alignment. And yes, also 143 33333 432 144, variations of these numbers. Last night as I was falling asleep, well, it was before I fell asleep, I finally like laid down, and it was interesting. I knew that I was going to hear a pitch. Why can't I say this? A frequency pitch. It's like the more that this is happening, the more I'm like, I can feel it before it even comes. And I like prepare now. Like when it first started happening, you may have heard me say this before. I remember like, this was like years ago. It would be so intense that I would have to like duck. Not have to, but my body would like duck because I thought there was like something being thrown at me. Like it was so crazy. Now like my body is so in tune that like it knows like, okay, something's come in. So I like literally laid down and was like, okay, I'm ready. And then it's interesting. It's like, it's almost like I hear silence, but like the silence has its own energetic like vibration that I can feel. And then the pitch comes in. And this time it was specifically in the right ear, which to me is like the masculine side. So a lot of this masculine, and I wish we had, I'm trying to come up with more language so I don't have to keep using a lot of the same words, but just know that I'm doing my best with that. I saw 29:11 on the timer. Okay, so I don't have an exact message with that pitch frequency yet. I feel like it's coming in, other than this feeling of preparation. Like because of the way I was able to prepare and have been able to prepare, it's like something that you've been preparing for is coming in with more ease, is kind of what I'm feeling. And again, very much connected to this masculine, what they call like rod healing from Keylontic science perspective. And again, that sacred solar return, it's like, they say our solar plexus is like our internal central sun. And of course, with this moon conjunction with galactic center, it's like this deep restoration of our own internal masculine and how we like self-illuminate and self-regenerate through this self-confidence that isn't like rooted in cockiness or overinflation. It's like a beautiful balance of that, of like an inner knowing, self-worth. It's funny because I found myself like almost wanting to over-explain something, like someone, I felt like I could see a miscommunication that I was having with someone. And I did go into some words, but then there was so much more I could have said to like try and rectify the situation. But the other person just like started to not respond. And I was like, you know what? It speaks for itself. Like when they're ready, if they're ready, I will have that conversation. But like I dealt with a lot of it energetically, and I was just like, I don't need to go into this over explanation. Like I know I showed up in the best way I could. I effectively communicated, I felt, and yeah, so like a past version of me would have like continued to try to show up and, resolve the situation. So there's something about that too, like not needing to like overexert that aspect. I just saw 3113 on the timer. Okay. Yeah, and then I wrote down Seraphim, Avian, Golden, Wholeness, Confidence. I already talked about the Black Crows. Oh, a song that kept coming through was, I think it's John Legend, All of Me. I heard it on the radio, and then I clicked on a reading from someone like a few hours later, and they brought that song up, and then it kept playing in my head. So that song, there could be some messages in there for you. Yeah, purging. Seraphim, Avian, Angelic Lineages, Restoration. Also memories. That I just saw another dandelion wishy thing float by. Another aspect that was really coming through strongly. My left eye just twitched. I just heard like good luck and good fortune. So you could be listening to like lucky syndrome subliminals, or maybe you're like doing things to like internally, energetically, subconsciously to like call in and increase your magnetism. I don't know, that just came in. You may be seeing like shamrocks or clovers, or maybe you'll start soon. Today I saw 777 a few times, so there's something about seeing that number. Interesting. Okay, so I'm getting like 777. There's like that word restoration is coming through again. And it's like in the past, or maybe even in the present, you were trying to like cultivate just, let's say, money for the sake of money. But now you're stepping into maybe a more heart-centered attraction point where you're not just calling in things for the sake of calling them in. There's like so much more intention and purpose behind it, even if it's not all like, you may not be sitting there every day saying that, but there's just like an energetic attunement that you've been realigning to with that. Oh, that's so lovely. Okay, let's see. I'm going to probably wrap it up here, but I do remember there was one more piece that wanted to come in about, this, how all of this just came together through, again, the solar connection. So some of you may be feeling called or have been connecting with the great central sun, your own inner central sun, the sun behind the sun behind the sun, Series B. The sun is a stargate, a portal, like really coming into this. You may be seeing like, or you may start seeing like some of the more light energetics that come off the sun rays. You may be seeing more color. Yesterday I was sun gazing at sunset, and which I do every time I get the chance to. And I'll see and feel different things each time. And yesterday it's really interesting because I just posted on my last transmission about rainbow fluorite in the description box. And when I was sun gazing, I actually caught the end of the sunset. So the sun was almost pretty much set, but I got a little tail end of it. And I could see just it was like the clouds were illuminated with like these rays of rainbow fluorite colors, just like floating through the sky. It was so magical. So things like this may be happening. Maybe you have rainbow fluorite, but there's something coming through. If you can see auras, you might like be seeing the rainbow fluorite template coming through. I'm just sitting to see if there's anything else. One more thing. So the second dream that I had that I started to explain in the beginning of this transmission about creating the portal. So it's interesting that I was calling for someone to meet me there, and they were there, but then I woke up and I didn't know what happened after that. So I listened to a message from someone on YouTube, and they were saying something like, I think it was Infinity from Magnetize Yourself. She's amazing. And she was saying something like, by the way, if like you had an energetic transference, like it was received, there's no need to continue on. And then she went into more detail, but that gave me that next piece that I was feeling like from the dream of how it all played out. And so yeah, there could be something here where there was like some sort of transference, like maybe some sort of what people call like a soul contract, that you were to meet someone or something, a place, person, multiple things, where there was an energetic transference, again, connected to this, like what I'll call the rod healing. Yeah, so it's like your piece spiritually, energetically, emotionally is just like in the dream, where it was like this beautiful, effervescent, etheric, golden pink energy, and this lightness was already there. And both of the, in this dream, it was represented by a man and a woman, me and another man, masculine and feminine. But it's like they were there, and now it's all about just, again, working, not working, but allowing the energy to be received, the magnetism, etc. Of course, always taking inspired action when you feel that call. But that might just be like specific for a few of you. And as I said that, this guy just is riding by on his jet ski pretty fast. So, and there was like a little like fountain of water spraying up. And I just felt this like tingling sensation on the left side of my chest. Excuse me. Oh, and that release. Yeah. So that feminine side of the heart energy. Yeah. Just keeping your heart open. I just heard the word jaded. So I think this came up in a recent transmission. Like it could have been very easily to be jaded, where you can still feel that way. Like, oh, it could be so easy. But it's like continuing to make the choice out of love and not fear. Even if fear comes up sometimes, but like that underlying like resilience of keeping your heart open. So beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much. There will be some links in the description box from what I read from, for Patreon and anything else. Personal links if you want any personal transmissions, things like that. Okay, thank you.